Hi, I'm Tiffany Royce of the Royce Team at eXp Realty, and today we are sitting down to talk to Jeff Divack of Intercostal Mortgage, a loan officer who's going to talk to us, especially those first-time home buyers, about some loan options and how to prepare to buy a home. Jeff, you and I both have kids that are in their 20s, and they're asking the question, what do I need to do to buy a home?
Right. And they need to do exactly what people have always needed to do to buy a house. They need a stable income and employment. Mm-hmm. They need to have established some credit. They need to have a little bit of money in the bank. And generally, they need to be ready, right? They have to, I think that in order to buy a house, you have to make a commitment to be in an area for at least 2 to 5 years, or at least keep a house in the area for 2 to 5 years.
All right, so let's take the first part of that. You talked about income.
Mm-hmm.
About how much income do you need to say, let's buy a $400,000 condo?
So roughly $60,000, $70,000, somewhere in there, with no other debt. And then if you have other debt, then you might need more income, because basically my world is all math, and we don't want you spending more than a certain percentage of your income on all of your payments, including the house. And
what is that percentage?
Well, it depends on the loan program.
Okay.
We can go as high as 50% of your income on some loan programs, which is both a good and a bad thing. Most people can't afford to spend 50% of their gross income paying all their bills, but that number gives people the ability to buy a little bit more house than they could otherwise, and maybe get a roommate to help subsidize the mortgage cost.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
So we're talking to some kids have student loans, they have car payments. About how much of that are they allowed to have?
It really does vary from person to person, and at the end of the day, as long as that the total expenses don't exceed 50% of the income, we're going to be able to get a loan done. So one way to think about it is every $7 worth of monthly payment you have on a debt probably reduces your ability to qualify for a loan by about $1,000.
Okay.
So if you had $700 in debt, that meant if you didn't have that $700 in monthly payments on debt, you could afford a house that's worth $100,000 more, or vice versa.
And how much do they need to be aiming for a down payment?
So there's no debt. So the good news is in Virginia, there is no down payment required for loans through Virginia Housing, and Virginia Housing has just increased their income limits so that almost anyone who applies with an income of $220,000 or less is going to be able to get a zero down payment loan from Virginia Housing.
Wow.
With a loan amount up to $806,000.
806? Mm-hmm. Wow, that's an incredible program. I didn't know they had raised the income rates that much.
Virginia Housing completely revamped their product line last year to recognize the realities of buying real estate in 2025.
So you said you need to have a little money in the bank. What should we aim for?
I would say the minimum amount you should have in the bank is 4% of the purchase price. You're going to need about 3% of the purchase price for closing costs, and then you're going to need to have at least a payment or two in the bank for comfort. Just because you're going to want to have a little money left after closing.
Talk to me about credit scores. We've all heard of our credit scores. We watch our credit scores. How does that affect your ability to buy a home?
So let's talk about what credit scores are first.
Okay.
So credit scores are a predictor of your likelihood of missing a payment. And at a 620 credit score, if you had a 620 credit score, you'd be likely to miss 1 in 100 payments statistically. Mm-hmm. At a 720 credit score, you're likely to miss 1 in 1,000 payments. So all things being equal, lenders prefer to make loans to folks with higher credit scores. That being said, for most loan programs, the minimum required score is 620, and ideally, if you're 660 to 680, that opens up a whole bunch of options, a whole bunch of loan options for folks.
Okay, so how do you check your credit score? How do you improve your credit score? Give us some hints on that.
Sure. So the easiest way to get mortgage credit scores is to call me, and I can do something called a soft credit pull, and that's going to give me mortgage credit scores for your credit. There are probably 30 or 40 different credit scoring systems. and the mortgage credit score is the one that we're going to make loans to.
Okay. So the one that comes up on my bank app when I open it up on my phone, if I can hit check credit score, that's not the same.
It's not going to be the same score. It is a good tool though.
Okay.
So the score you're getting from your credit card or your bank is a great way to check the changes in your scores. And generally, the higher the score, the more loan product that's available to you. And generally, the higher your score, the less expensive the money's going to be. So, for example, if you had a 660 score, the loan you would be doing most likely would be an FHA loan, which is just a kind of loan. And that loan has a lot of flexibility built into it, but it has some cost built into it that doesn't exist. If you had, say, a 720 credit score, we would do a conventional loan, which would have fewer what's called mortgage insurance costs. So both are good loan programs. Both have their place. If you have a higher score, you may be able to take advantage of a different program that might have lower rates or payments.
So there's lots of options out there. There's not just one. Hey, all first-time home buyers should use this option.
That's correct.
Okay. I'm going to throw something else at you. There are people out there who do pretty well in the stock market. Talk to me about the idea of maybe I should rent and then invest in the stock market rather than invest in a home. What do you think about that?
So I think there's risk to putting all of your eggs in one basket. Mm-hmm. I think if you talk to most successful investors, long-term investors, they'll tell you the goal should be to have a diversified portfolio of assets. And that portfolio should probably include real estate, should probably include some stocks, probably include some bonds, maybe a little Bitcoin if you're adventurous, or cryptocurrency. But I think real estate is a very good hedge against inflation, and real estate is beyond that a place to call home, you buy a piece of real estate for a bunch of different reasons. You can make money on it for sure. You can store value in it for sure, and you can make it yours. You can personalize it and customize it and live in it. And so from a utility perspective, right? There's a lot of utility to owning a house.
I always talk to people about home ownership being you want to live there, right? You want to be able to call this place a home. So you're not ready to buy a house if you're not sure you're going to stay in that city for 5 years.
I think that's right.
But if you are going to stay in that city for 5 years, I think it's a great way to start investing in where you also live.
Well, there's another piece to that, which is you can buy a piece of real estate and live in it, and then if you move or get promoted or decide you want to have an investment portfolio of real estate, you can rent it out. So one of the nice things about real estate is as an investment, and I do prefer to think of the house you live in is not an investment but a home. But one of the nice things about real estate as an investment is that you can buy it with a lot of margin. You only need 5% down payment or zero down, and really the banks and the financial institutions are taking most of the risk. And then you could turn around and rent out your house and buy the next house and do that over and over again. And by the time you're my age, you might have 2 or 3 properties, and those the rents from those properties provide income that can last a lifetime.
Well, Jeff, thank you so much for joining us today. This is Jeff Divack with Intercostal Mortgage, and he is a great resource if you are looking for information on loan products in taking that next step to buy your first home. I am Tiffany Royce with the Royce Team at eXp Realty, and we would be honored to be part of your home search as you're looking to buy your next home.